This is Tim Bryce with my column titled, Finding Perfection in Imperfection. I don't know what kind of potato chip you like, but I tend to avoid the national brands and enjoy the local variety. For some reason, I have a problem with a perfect potato chip. You know, it is perfectly round and pure in color without a blemish. To me, it seems rather sterile and too good to be true. It lacks imagination and taste. Instead, I prefer a chip with a little character, maybe just slightly burned on the edge, or the skin somehow survives the cutting process and remains on the chip. Either way, I find them tastier than the perfect chips. The same is true with peanuts. If there's a can of nuts on the table, I'll zero in on those peanuts that are browner than the others or perhaps still have the skin on them. Likewise, I'll do this with a can of mixed nuts. I'm also not a fan of plain white bread, particularly those soft loaves of bread we typically feed the kids. I like something with a little more imagination, such as rye, pumpernickel, sourdough, or a nutty whole wheat. And yes, I love the crust and heels of such breads. As for the crust, the crunchier the better. As to the heel, it is something all fathers have to eat, whether we will like it or not. I think it's in our job description. I guess what I'm saying is, while most people desire purity, I tend to gravitate towards a little imperfection. In terms of food, imperfection offers a bolder taste. It takes a typically bland, pure product and gives it some character, thereby perfecting the taste. In other words, imperfections can lead to perfection. The same is true with people. Those who seem to have perfect teeth, skin, hair, smile, who always say the right thing at the right time and seem too good to be true, I find rather boring. Maybe such people make me cognizant of my own imperfections, but I tend to prefer people with a gap in their teeth, balding, possess an interesting accent, or have some other distracting foible. To me, such people are aware of their imperfections, work to overcome them, and by doing so, are much more interesting than the perfect people. The world would be very bland and uninteresting if everyone was perfect. Again, here's where imperfection leads to perfection. I have also found there is no such thing as human perfection. We all possess some mental or physical blemish we do not want others to know about, or perhaps an embarrassing incident in our past. You will find this in all social classes, especially the elite. We go to great lengths to hide our imperfections from others as we find them painful to reveal. Consider this, though. Without such imperfections, there would be no need for psychoanalysis. We should spend less time worrying about our frailties and more time trying to rise up and improve ourselves. The only solace in possessing an imperfection is knowing others have them too. This is why I find it interesting that even though we constantly seek perfection, we never truly find it and learn to overlook imperfections. Life is too short to burden ourselves with our perceived weaknesses, particularly those invisible to the naked eye. Let's be mindful of our inequities, but move on to better things. I'm certainly not suggesting we should all become nonconformists and dress avant-garde, or go out of our way to distract others by drawing attention to ourselves. Instead, we should just understand our imperfections, do not become obsessed by them, and enjoy the company of others. I think there is a tendency for people to focus on people's shortcomings as opposed to their strengths and assets. When we do this, we miss the delicious brown nut. Some time ago, I came up with the Bryce's Law, quote, never trust a person who doesn't have at least one known vice. For example, drinking, smoking, or swearing, end quote. If they do not exhibit at least one imperfection, they are probably too good to be true and masking other imperfections. As for me, I'll keep looking for the brown potato chip, dark peanuts, and the guy with the bald spot. They may be imperfect, but they will likely have more character and are more interesting than those who purport themselves to be perfect. They aren't. Although we may constantly seek perfection, we should rejoice in our imperfection as it challenges us to improve ourselves. As my father liked to say, don't forget, the last guy that was perfect, they hung on a cross. One last thing. So long as humans control the world, we will always have imperfection. Friends, keep the faith. This is Tim Bryce in Palm Harbor, Florida. Follow me on the internet at timbryce.com.